Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Every week we do 3 shows, and I love to get a high school coach on, and today we have one of the best high school coaches on in the state of Louisiana. He's been around a long time, and glad that we're going to have him on. Coach Dennis Dunn, the head football coach at North DeSoto High School in Stonewall there. Also Keithville. If you're not familiar with those areas, we'll talk about it during the show. But Dennis, thanks for joining us all the way from Stonewall, Keithville, that whole area there for North DeSoto High School.
Lee, I'm surprised you even know about this area, but knowing Lee Brecheen, he knows everything about Louisiana and all the nooks and crannies all over the state. And I'm honored today to be with you and our long-time relationship going all the way back to Woodlawn High School when we were both pups in the business.
Yeah, we had more black hair or brown hair, more gray hair now. But
absolutely.
Hey, man, but we survived it, and appreciate all what you've done. And I've talked to you when you were at Louisiana College. We talked on the phone. I talked to you when you were also the head coach for many years at Evangel Christian, and we'll talk about that in the show. I want to talk to you about your thoughts on your current North DeSoto team. Before we get into the interview, I want to mention our new sponsor, Medine's Collision Center. Be sure to give them a call. We're really excited to have them to be a part of this so we can have a show. Medine's Collision Center is owned by Chris Medine and Dominica Medine and their son Jesse Medine, who's operations manager. Go to their collision center. There's been a lot of rain this week in Louisiana, a lot of wrecks, and unfortunately that happens. But call, if you're thinking of someone to call Medine's Collision Center. They're on Kincaid Avenue, 5275. Phone number 225-357-7983 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And also in Shreveport, Bossier City, we want to thank John Harvey Toyota for being a big-time sponsor for our show. He was the first one to come on board with us. Tommy Harvey, a great guy. For all your needs, if you need a brand new car, you got to call these guys in Bossier City or Shreveport. Harvey Subaru, Lexus, they've got it for you, man. Used cars, new cars. But getting back to Coach Dennis Dunn, Coach, what a journey.
What a journey. Yeah.
We're talking about Woodlawn, and I remember in 91, I came back from building tennis courts in Boston, Massachusetts, and I was working in Philadelphia, in Connecticut, and I got back home, and I'm like, what am I going to do? My dad was a coach. He was a youth league coach. He was a full-time electrician, and I grew up around him as a coach's son, and he said, look, son, do what's going to make you happy. And I said, Dad, I got a chance to do a radio show with a gentleman named Bruce Hunter. He said, you need to do that. At least you can say if it doesn't work, you can go do something else, but you'll always regret it if you don't. So I remember calling. The first person I called was yours truly on the show today, Dennis Dunn. I said, let me call Coach Dunn. They're doing great at Woodlawn and Shreveport. They got this quarterback, James Gilliard, who's doing a phenomenal job. And you told me, said, yeah, I'll come on your radio show. And that was the highlight of that year for me in 92. And what's crazy, Coach, is James Gilliard. People forget he was a quarterback for you at Woodlawn. He ended up being a defensive end linebacker at LSU.
Right. Yeah, James was an amazing athlete, and I was a young head coach, had gotten a head coaching job there in 87 when I was 25 years old and thought I knew everything, But here 36 years later, I'm not near as smart as I thought I was then. And I thought that every school had athletes like Woodlawn High School.
Yeah.
Until I've been some other places. And man, those years there, we had some amazing athletes. When you talk about James Gilliard, but you think about Tyrone Frazier and some of those names that were just Reginald Mack, Terrence Strickland, Tulane players. We had some really phenomenal athletes at Woodlawn back in those years. And yeah, James actually was a linebacker for us. Our quarterback got hurt, and he was such a great athlete. We moved him to quarterback, and he finished the year for us doing some great things at quarterback, and then went on to LSU and was a freshman All-American, freshman All-SEC at outside linebacker for LSU. Amazing talent.
And people forget about Tyrone Frazier. He was a USA Today All-American first team as an athlete, ended up being one of the first. Tell me if I'm wrong, Coach. He was one of the first high school football players to go sign an MLB contract out of high school.
Right. He and Josh Booty in the area were some of the first to do that.
Ran that 4.340. I remember he was one of the first 4.3.
Yeah, he was actually at the USL camp. They clocked him at 4.29, and they didn't want to say 4.29 because they said this is world class, and we don't know so we'll just say 4.3.
Nobody will believe it.
Yeah, nobody will believe it.
I remember when Trendon Holiday, I was talking to, Coach David Masterson from Northeast?
Yes.
And played at Northeast College. And he said, Lee said, we timed Trendon Holiday at the school, and he ran a 4.19. And he said, like, I'm going to call somebody and tell him that. And he said, but he said, I called Saban. He said, I called Saban, and I said, y'all need to get out here, you and Jimbo. And this is a story that Masterson's telling me, and he says, y'all need to come see it yourself and bring your own watch. And sure enough, they went to the school and timed him at a 4.2.
Yeah. And then, Tyrone went and played baseball for a while and did what Josh did, came back and actually played receiver at LSU.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And was able to fulfill both sides of it. And then Booty, Josh won the knuckleball contest. Do you remember that not long ago?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
He's something else, man. Still the athlete, 40 plus, still a great guy. Now his son is the quarterback at Evangel Christian.
Yeah, sure is. That Booty family is just amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing talent in that family. I heard your podcast with Abram not long ago, and man, when you talk about the legacy of that Booty family, it's pretty amazing, and it just continues. Abram in his own right having a son that is a great high school player and will probably go on. His best football probably is still ahead of him, and then Josh has got twins at Evangel that are just amazing. Watching them run around reminds me so much. I feel like I'm deja vu, throwback watching these kids because they look so much like the twins. The quarterback looks just like Josh, and then the twin brother looks just like Abram. It's like a throwback. I feel like I'm in a dream watching those guys run around.
Yeah, Coach, I feel that way seeing Walker Howard now, Jamie Howard, who played at LSU, his son Walker. And I remember when Jamie was in high school coming out. And then I remember when, Eli Manning and Cooper, now they got this Arch Manning. And like they're all at the same time.
I know it is crazy.
Crazy, man. And
it's crazy.
We're going to take
how fast is 35 years happen,
Snap your fingers like my dad told me way back. I said, Dad, nah. He was right. He was right. It flies.
I tell these young coaches, don't blink. It will happen fast.
That's right. Coach, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have more of Coach Dennis Dunn, the head coach. We're going to be talking about North DeSoto, his program. We just want to talk about some of the old days before we get started, and also his time at Louisiana College where he did a great job in Pineville, Louisiana. We'll be right back. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Dennis Dunn, who's doing a great job. He's in his third year at North DeSoto High School. A lot of people, if they're not from North Louisiana, they'll say Shreveport, right? And Coach knew that.
Right.
Coach knew I was narrowing it down there because it's not Shreveport. It's about 30 minutes from Shreveport, but it's close and it's not far from Natchitoches. It's right there by Mansfield, Louisiana, not far from Mansfield, and a rock throw, depending on what direction if you want to go to Manny. But what a great job you're doing there. We'll get to the North DeSoto, your program, and do a real great job talking about all your kids. But before we do that, Coach, talk about Louisiana College, your experience when you got the job there. You had coached many years at Evangel Christian, did a great job there. But Louisiana College, I mean, you had some great seasons there, and y'all basically had to build that program up from scratch coming back. And talk about your time there and what that taught you as a coach, you know.
I had a dream of coaching college football. But for me, it was more than that. In 1999, I had decided not to take the Northwestern job. I was a finalist for the Northwestern job and pulled my name out because my son was about to be a freshman, and I wanted to be a part of his high school career. But that dream, that seed was still in my heart to want to be able to do it. And Louisiana College offered me the job 2 years in a row. And the first year I turned it down because Evangel had just, that's when the association, the LHSAA, moved the 5A programs that, we had to play in our class. So we went from 5A to 1A in one season.
Yeah.
And I didn't want the kids and Evangel to feel like I was bailing on them. So I stayed one more year, and the job came open again at Louisiana College. And I just decided to go see what we could do. And it was a very difficult job. I was the fourth head coach in 4 years. There were no facilities. And we basically started from scratch. And, it took 2 years. We got a stadium built in 2008. I took the job in 2006. And then in 2008, we went on an 8-year run where we won 7 or more games. And, just met some amazing young men and coached guys like Ben McLaughlin, who now are, great coaches in their own right. But Ben McLaughlin in 2010 was the National Division III Player of the Year. He was the Louisiana state quarterback.
Yeah.
That's with all the Division I quarterback, just a tremendous leader and passer in his own right. And now is the offensive coordinator at Ash there with Thomas Bachman, another young man that I coached. So my wife and I went back recently, Lee, and we counted the number of kids that we coached. They're not kids now, they're men that are in coaching themselves. And it was over 80, the list that we made of kids that I had coached through the years that are now in coaching. So making their own impact, with high school kids. So just a real amazing opportunity that I had, and spent 11 quality years there. People may not know that, but I spent 11 years there at Louisiana College.
Wow. Coach, I want to mention this. I just remembered a time when you called me out of the blue. This is early on when you were at Louisiana College, your first 4 or 5 years, and you were looking for O-linemen. And I said, I know this guy. I said, I saw this skinny guy's name, Chujinovich.
Yep.
And I said, he's 6'5",
sure did.
about 230. I said, Coach, he's a hamburger from being 280. And I said, I don't know if what'll happen. You know how we always say this, but if he does this, does that, I said, he'll end up being a great player. And I remember you followed up, took him, and heck, the rest is history. Ends up being what, 320, 6'6"?
Lee, you exaggerated when you said he was 230.
He was lighter.
He was 210, and he was a basketball player as well, but he could really move his feet and wanted an opportunity to play. And I looked at him on the recruiting trip, and I said, Jeremy, you'll have a chance to probably be 250 and be a great college player. Well, he was 250 his sophomore year. And then he goes on, falls in love with it, falls in love with the weight room. And by the time he gets done, he's 6'5", and he's 310 and is an NFL prospect, and went on and had several years in the league, and was a tremendous player. So we had several like that, really that 2012 year, his senior year, we had 5 offensive linemen that could have played a lot of places that we took. And they were just a little bit undersized, a little light for other people. And we took them, and they developed and became tremendous offensive linemen.
I remember Darren Moore
Yes, he's another one.
I didn't talk to you at the time, but when he was a senior at Ponchatoula, he called me. I don't even know if I shared this with you before, Coach, but Darren calls me, and him and his dad are on the phone and says, look, signing day is almost over with. I said, well, call Dennis, because I know you were getting calls without me telling you. You were just getting some guys from guys. I said, call Dennis. I said, look, Darren, you're tall and you got good grades. Go over there. And he's another one. He's now a coach at Salmon, was a coach with you at Pineville
absolutely.
for a little bit.
Yep. Darren was a tremendous offensive lineman, just, a little undersized coming out. He had Southeastern and Nichols look at him strongly, but he was a little light for them. And then he develops first year, and he's 280, 285 after the first year. And I think some of those guys were wanting him to reconsider after the first year. Darren's a loyal guy who bought into what we were doing there at Louisiana College and wound up having a great year, became an All-American, and now is a heck of a coach in his own right. He's one of the best offensive line coaches I've ever been around. But he was tutored there at LC under another great one, and Mike Richard, who was a long time, tremendous high school coach in his own right, and retired and came to work with me at Louisiana College with the offensive line, and Darren learned from him, and now he does a great job in his own right. So great young man.
Yeah, it's crazy that Darren ended up being the head coach at Pineville for a couple of years. Now he's at Salmon as an assistant, but Coach Richard was a longtime Pineville head coach.
Yes.
Coach, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the Griffins, North DeSoto High School, your team and your players, and I'm really high on your team. I'm not going to overpump them because I know you're old school, but we're gonna promote how the potential's there to have a phenomenal season, and the talent's there going into the fall. We'll talk more with Coach Dennis Dunn. We'll be right back. Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Dennis Dunn, the head football coach of North DeSoto High School, the Griffins, as they call them. Coach, last year, tough season, but y'all gutted out a good year. Y'all had 6-4, won a playoff game. During COVID, I'll tell every coach this. If you win a playoff game, you get to the playoffs. During last year, mark that up as a check, a major accomplishment, right? With everything that everybody went through.
Yeah. Lee, COVID was obviously unprecedented in all of the issues that it caused for all of us. But you're right. For us to be able to play 10 games was a miracle. For us to be able to play 8 games and then 2 playoff games just was unprecedented for the year. To be able to complete the season that they gave us and then to play 2 more was just a credit to our coaching staff for the way they handled COVID and our kids. And really, they flipped the script. Our kids flipped the script. We lost some really close games early, and we knew we were real close. And then we won a couple of big games and wound up winning the district championship and going on and winning a big game against Salmon, and then had Tioga on the ropes. It was number 2 seed, and we had them on the ropes there at Tioga, a very good team. We just dug ourselves a hole early on, got down 21-0, about, kind of similar to the season. We fought back, made it 21-20, and I had a chance there at the end. We just couldn't finish. But a lot of those kids returned, Lee, to this team. You got a 3-year starter in Kelvin Kinney, and we can talk about that. But
right.
One thing to note is, I got here late in 2019. I didn't have an off season. I got here, in May, and then last year didn't have an off season because of COVID. So this is the first off season that I've been able to go through with this team. These guys have really bought in, and we've had a tremendous off season, which I believe you got to build this thing from January to August, and then the season takes care of itself. So in 3 years, this is the first time we've been able to do this, and I think we're going to see the fruit of that development.
And speaking of Kelvin Kinney, I watched your team play last year, a couple of games, and I'm impressed with him, Coach. I mean, I think he's D1 all the way, whether it's, an athlete. I know he's a quarterback for you. I'm not ruling out quarterback. I'm just talking about my own eyes. He could play many positions in college. He's got great feet, great arm, and hasn't even hit his upside, right? I mean, I don't think he's even hit, which is a good thing. He hasn't shown everything in the toolkit yet.
No, I mean, last year, the kid's got a tremendously strong arm, and he's poised. He's smart. He's a great student, academically sound. He's already got an outstanding test score at a 25, and he can handle everything we've thrown at him for 3 years with terminology and coverages and all that stuff. Last year, we had to basically change our offense halfway through because we lost 3 starting wideouts to injury, and we didn't have anybody to get the ball to. So he really bought in, and we did some old school stuff that I'd done 30 years ago at Woodlawn High School, and we're able to. And he just did it. He took the team, and led us, and really had an outstanding year. But he's a good passer, and hopefully with these guys back from injury, we'll be able to showcase him a little bit in the passing game. But the thing about Kelvin, we call him K2 because his dad's a Kelvin as well. He'll do whatever it takes for us to win games. We played in the corner some last year. He's very versatile. He can run. I mean, I agree with you. I think he's a Division I football player at some position. But I wouldn't count him out at quarterback either. Coach,
you know what I like about him is he's like Houdini. He's got a sense to move. He's hard to tackle, yes. He doesn't give up if pressured. And actually, he does some good things for you when he's pressured. And he doesn't make a lot of mistakes when he's pressured.
Absolutely.
And these other kids coming back, I'm going to name a bunch of guys, and then we can talk about some. I just want to get their names out. Jonathan Lewis, running back, coming back. Justin Lafitte, receiver. Sam Odom, receiver. David Atkins, I'm really high on him, a receiver. Jordan Welch, a new receiver for you. Jackson Gibson, this is some O-lineman. Duke Thomas, a very experienced kid, along with Jackson Gibson, Joe Cryer. These are all guys over 260 in weight. Evan Howell, linebacker, tough kid for you. Marquise Hampton's a very good linebacker for you, DN. Dominique Graham. Logan Ferguson, free safety. Hunter Addison, strong safety. Deshaun Youngblood, a great corner, young, good-looking kid. Sean Ivey, really good player at corner. You got a good punter in Drake Wadsworth. Kicker, Landon Falls, a really good kicker. R.J. Clark and Chris Davis, 2 big-time nose guards. It's good to have those 300-pound guys on the D-line. But, Coach, a very good group. A little bit of depth, a little bit of experience, a good mesh with young and old.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, a lot of experience in those names that they've a lot of reps, for 2 years, and we took some lumps a couple of years ago, and a little rough start last year, but we knew we were much better because we, obviously played some of those tougher teams a lot closer, and then I think we broke through, and those kids saw the potential, and then to have these guys back with game experience, I really feel good about the opportunity and potential that this team has. And you mentioned some tremendous players. When you talk about John Lewis, I think he's a rising star, surprised a lot of people, going to be a junior. David Atkins, who I think he's got big time speed. The defensive line, you mentioned a couple of names, the new guys that we think that, grown up and had really good off seasons. We think they've got a chance. Jayshon Youngblood, who started as a freshman at corner. I think he's a Power 5 kind of guy one day. So, yeah, you're right. We do have some kids returning that we're excited about, and they've worked really hard, and we believe that it's an opportunity to make some noise in 2021.
And I want to mention this. You knew this when you were at Evangel Christian, and this is well known among all the coaches in Shreveport, but there's some phenomenal talent that comes out of Keithville and Stonewall. There's always been talent there. I mean, there's talent there. And, you know, and the good thing is the facilities that North DeSoto High School was able to get the last, 10 years, which is really a great draw for the school, right, Coach? I mean, it's a phenomenal school.
There are some amazing athletes in this neck of the woods, and it's been that way for a long time. We're really, like you mentioned, we're really a suburb of Shreveport. We're 7 miles south of the Shreveport or Caddo Parish line, and what's happened over when I left Shreveport 15 years ago to go to Louisiana College, North DeSoto was a blip on the radar. It was a little fledgling 1A school because the Haynesville shell hadn't hit yet.
Right.
And when the Haynesville shell hit here in 2012 or whatever it was, this community just blew up. I mean, it doesn't even look close to what it looked like back then. The community is just exploding, neighborhoods going up everywhere, and they're having to build new buildings here like crazy just to accommodate the population growth. And we're needing buildings right now. Our elementary and middle schools are just overflowing. So our district's having a tough time keeping up with the need because of the explosion here in the population in Stonewall, Louisiana.
And I've met a lot of the people there in education and superintendents. They love sports, and you got to have that.
Oh, absolutely. And we got a great superintendent in Clay Corley, who was a great high school coach in his own right. He loves the whole student. Obviously a great academic guy, but understands the importance of athletics for the well-rounded student. Man, he is tremendously supportive, giving us everything that we need to be successful. And if you're not successful in this district, it's your own fault, because this guy has really made it. You saw our softball team just won a state championship and Tim Whitman's second year here. And
congrats.
So there's just the opportunity here for a coach and, to be successful, because you're only as good as your administration will let you be. And we're fortunate here to have a great superintendent in Clay Corley.
And just in that area, when you go from there, Mansfield, Logansport, Manny, Coach, that's a lot of programs that could get to state title games just in that area. Logansport,
absolutely,
your program, Mansfield High School, Manny High School, and then some other small schools. You got some MAIA schools going toward Natchitoches.
Right, and you got really good coaches at all those places as well. Kevin McGee at Logansport has just done a tremendous job, was an outstanding player there. You'll remember him as a player there and at Northwestern, and just does a great job as a coach. Mike Green at Mansfield, who was a longtime assistant here at North DeSoto, they're doing a great job at Mansfield. And then, of course, Jess Curtis has built a dynasty there at Manny, and the way he brands that program and promotes it, those kids play exceptionally hard for him. So, really good schools here on 171.
And then talk about Shreveport, Coach, the schedule. It's not – you got programs like Northwood now that are powers. Northwood.
Absolutely. And Northwood is – the community's really grown out there in the north part of Shreveport, that area. They got a really outstanding young coach in Austin Brown. The Houghton area has grown tremendously out there with the population, people, moving from the inner city to these outskirts, and some of these programs are benefiting, so
Benton,
you're right. Benton, just, now a 5A school who, just not long ago was just a 2A school, so it's amazing what's happening on the outskirts here of Northwest Louisiana.
Coach, before we go, looking at all your years, 37 years of coaching, you still got a lot in the tank, man. You still sound like you can coach another 20 years, man.
I feel great, Lee. I've got a lot of energy. My health's good. And I don't know what else I'd do. I don't have a lot of hobbies. And so I still enjoy what I do. My philosophy's changed a little bit. I really like building platforms underneath young coaches to help them achieve their dreams. And we've got some quality young guys on my staff right now that I'm really glad to be around. A guy like Matt Parker, who most people probably hadn't heard his name there, but I think he's a rising star in the profession. Dane Reeves, who played for me at Louisiana College and coached with me at LC and Pineville, is with me. I think he's a rising star in the business. Guy by the name of Justin Hadwin on the defensive side of the ball, who coached under Byron Dawson a long time at Evangel. I think he's a rising star.
Okay. Brad
Young, all young guys. I really think we've got a tremendous staff here as well. So that's kind of what I feel like the next part of my career is helping young guys be all they can be.
And let me give a shout out to another former assistant of yours, currently a college coach at Evangel College in Missouri, Jeremy DeSoto, that coached with you at Louisiana College.
Yeah, played for me at Evangel and then coached with me there at LC, and does a great job. You know, I was just with Jeremy yesterday. He was through recruiting, so a lot of quality young men in this profession.
Signed one of your players last year, Kadri Clark, right, Coach?
He sure did. Cadre is going to be a good one for him.
Defensive tackle, big kid. Any final thoughts, Coach, about your team? What about spring, if anybody's listening and wants to come out and watch? Are y'all done? Or
No, we finish up with practice this week, and then we scrimmage airline Monday here on at 6 p.m. at North DeSoto. Okay. Airline High School, 6 p.m. And I know that Bo Meeks, again, has had a very successful career there, and we're looking forward to a solid scrimmage on Monday with Airline, a very good 5A program.
And they're loaded with talent, too. Another good team.
Yes.
Coach,
absolutely.
Appreciate it. I know you got to go back to school. You're at school now doing this, and I know you teach and coach, and so I appreciate you taking the time to be a part of our show, Coach, today. Really do.
Lee, it's an honor, and Louisiana Football Magazine is a staple in this state. Kids always love to get it and see if there are pictures in it or names in it. So thank you for what you've done for all of these years for high school kids in Louisiana. You've left a legacy in your own right. We appreciate all you've done, Lee.
Thank you, Coach. It means a lot. Don't hang up. I'm going to end the show. Go to lafootballmagazine.com. And speaking of that, 25 years, Coach. The preview will be out in September. If you want to pre-order a copy, go to LA Football Magazine. Hey, we do a North Louisiana copy and a South Louisiana, and you can also get an online version and a print copy. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.